It froze once, froze the second time, and it's not turning on again. Hello, welcome back to the channel. The keen-eyed viewers may have noticed I actually have a different camera with me today. I have bad news. I went out for a walk this morning. I was using my Nikon Z9 as normal, and it froze once, froze the second time, and it's not turning on again. The top LCD has gone pale on the Nikon Z9, so there's no connection to the battery, so I can't use that. So instead we have the old Nikon Z6 II that I have. I'm having to use that. Now I actually haven't used it with the 180-600. So today's the day we're going to try it. This is, I'm not talking down to the camera, but it's far less sophisticated than the Z9. The autofocus on this is primitive in comparison. I can't shoot video in the normal format that I normally do, which is Nikon N-Log. With this it comes out as an MOV file. I can't edit that as well. So look, there's a few challenges today, but regardless, we're going to go out and see what we can see. I'd like to try and find some mammals, some deer or some foxes. So that's what I'm going to look for. I'll try and get some shots of some birds on the way if I can. We'll see how it goes. So this is the Z6 II, the 180-600. Let's have at it and see how we get on. So you might question, what about the Z9 do I prefer over the Z6 II? And there are a couple of things in particular. The first would be the electronic shutter of the Z9 is a lot quieter. In fact, it's silent. Compared to the Z6 II, there's a slight click from it. And that can alert wildlife to your whereabouts. So if you ever listen to this, I'll turn it on and I'll take a picture. So it's not going to be terribly loud, but it's loud enough. So that's not terrible, but if you have something like a fox or a deer in front of you, they will hear the click. And it makes them uneasy. And I feel like you're just not going to get as many shots using a camera like this. Whereas with the Z9, you can sit there extremely sneakily, dressed as a tree, without the animal knowing. You get your shots and all is good. So that is the first thing. The second thing then is the viewfinder. I personally do not get on with the Z6 II's viewfinder for fast action when things like birds are flying. The reason I say this is because there's a bit of blackout as you take your images. And what I've found in the past is if you're trying to get a sequence of shots of birds flying, the bird will be at one part of your frame. As a blackout occurs, it's only minor, but the bird can be at a completely different part of the frame by the time you see it again in the viewfinder. This is very annoying. The third and final thing that I don't particularly like on the Z6 II is this autofocus. As I mentioned earlier, compared to a Nikon Z9, it is not really comparable. You don't have any dedicated, well, you do actually. You have an animal mode, which is okay for things like dogs and cats, but for birds, forget about it. It is no help. So that's quite annoying. But that said, there are some redeeming features. One of those features is the fact that the camera is small and lightweight. So if you're going somewhere and you want to bring one lens, if I'm going to town, I might bring the 24-70 and the Z6 II. It's perfect. It's easy to carry around. You're not so concerned about it, it doesn't cost a fortune, and that is a benefit. As for the other benefits of the Z6 II over the Z9, I'll have to think on and let you know what I think they are. So I've sat on this rock for a bit and I'm still trying to think of the other features of the Z6 II that I would like over features on the Z9. They're not coming easily. But that said, I'm not trying to bash this camera, because at the end of the day, the camera's only as good as the person behind it. So for example, I started in 2018 with a Nikon D7200, and that was my first ever camera. And I had so much fun with it. I learned a lot. I took some great images with that camera. The biggest upgrade that I've found is lenses. And a lot of people will say, when you get into a particular camera ecosystem, you marry the glass. And that is what you do. I started off with a 18-200. This was a Nikon lens on the D7200. The next lens I got then was the 80-200, and this was an f2.8 lens. And the change was phenomenal. I absolutely loved that lens and it was brilliant. I then upgraded to a 300mm f4. It was an old lens, but it still took a beautiful picture. The arguably best and one of the last DSLR lenses I got for wildlife was the 500mm f4. Now it was on the older version, so it weighed a ton, but the images were special. They were absolutely fantastic. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're into photography, if you're newly into it, you don't have to spend a fortune to get top-end gear. You can get some very good equipment for not a lot of money. And at the end of the day, if you know how to use it right, that's where you get the best shots. And the main thing I've found from having a Z9 in comparison to the Z6 is it just makes the job a lot easier. Now, of course, for action shots, it does make you capture shots that you otherwise would not be able to capture, or shots which you would really struggle to capture. The autofocus is amazing. So it's great in that respect. But the point is, if you play your cards right and you put the time in, you should be able to get some great shots with lower end equipment. Now, it isn't exactly low end. A 180-600, not everyone's going to have them, especially if you're younger. So you might opt for an older lens, like say a Sigma 150-600, and that will do a great job. That on a DSLR, you could be absolutely flying. But this is what I have today. So I'm going to get up to these woods, get under a net, and hopefully get some good photography results which will back up what I'm saying. As I approached, there's a little bit of a clearing in front of me. There was a deer there which left. So what I'm going to do is sit here for a few hours. I'm going to get under this net and just sit and wait and see if anything comes by. I've sat here for quite a while at this stage and have not seen a single mammal of any form. So I'm going to go for a little look around these woods. Now the wind is blowing in that direction quite strongly. So I'll try go against it and see if I can find any deer or foxes. But not looking great so far, but I am hearing a lot of bird activity. So if I see a particular spot where I think the birds are, I might go and just sit there for a bit and wait, because I've heard quite a few flying over the top of me. But it just came to me while I was walking there. One of the things I do actually like about the Z6 II over the Z9 is the file size. So with the Z6 II, my files end up being about, say, 28 megabytes. With the Z9, they can be anywhere from, say, 50 megabytes up to, I think I've had as high as 65 megabytes. So a substantial difference. And that is one thing that I have felt with storage. I frequently have to check it and get rid of old content. So that is one thing which I didn't have the concern of when I was just using the Z6 II. That's it for today. The mammals were nowhere to be seen, apart from a fleeting glimpse when I first got to that opening in the wood, but no joy, sadly. It's been weirdly refreshing going out with the Z6 II instead of the Z9. It's lightweight, it's not, you know, terribly advanced, but it does take a good picture. I'm quite intrigued to see how the video turns out. And in fairness, if there's not many subjects around, you can only do so much with your pictures. So I'll be interested just to see what I did get and see how it turns out. A couple of decent ones of Autofocus, I think. So yeah, we'll see what we get, but that's it. That's been a nice little day out. Shame there wasn't more mammals, what can you do? So yeah, I hope it's been somewhat insightful, enjoyable. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you in the next video.